It's been 4 years since my sister died. Pretty much for a couple of months, I just noticed that my sister was going to the doctor a lot, and I'm like trying to figure out what's going on, and they're giving us different diagnoses. I'm actually like going to college during this time, and I wasn't really like noticing improvements. It seemed like they were just always going to the doctor. I noticed my sister wanted to hang out with me even more, but during that time I was just so busy with the stuff I had going on, so I wasn't coming home as much. I should have called more, honestly, but during that time, you feel like you'll have your family forever, so it's like you don't really think about constantly having to talk to people, especially me, because I just prefer like in-person things. So that's how I kind of justify it. During that time, like I thought everything was fine, and then it seemed like they had found like a solution to what was going on. But whenever I visit, I would notice she was looking like sick, and she was always tired. She was always sleeping, and she wouldn't eat her food like very much, and we thought she was just being picky. So we started noticing like those things. We were like, oh, it's probably because of the medicine that they're giving her. August hit, and then I get a phone call that my sister is like not doing really well, and then she's in the hospital. But just a short message like that, and then I'm just kind of left like without any answers or anything. I remember me and my sister pulled up to the Lowe's in Gainesville, and I got a call from my dad, and he was like, "Hey, I think that you should go home, and then we'll call you back." And we knew it was about my sister, so we're like very like, and then my sister's stressing, I'm stressing, I'm trying to drive home. And then I texted my boyfriend about it, and he was at home. So we finally called back, and they were like, "Yeah, seems like her stomach swelled up. She has stage 4 cancer." They said that she probably has like 2 weeks. I just like instantly like started crying, obviously, and then like I started shaking. It's just like such a horrible feeling, like when you have no control over something that is really important to you. I just like looked to my right, and then I just see my sister like crying really bad, and then she left to the bathroom. She threw up like from the shock, and I call my boyfriend and comes over, and then he like comforts me and everything. But I remember like when my parents told me, they were like, "Oh yeah, it's pancreatic blastoma cancer, which is really really rare in children, and there's only a few cases that were in the U.S." So whenever we went to go visit her, we noticed that she was like kind of like like she looked like she was kind of drunk a little bit. Like she wasn't really realizing like what was going on. And so then I know my boyfriend immediately tells me, "Hey, we're gonna drive to the hospital right now. Like pack everything that you need, and we're gonna drive you," because they weren't gonna let us drive. And then after that, I remember arriving there or whatever, and like me seeing my sister that way was like not a great feeling. It was nice to be able to hug her, but it just sucks whenever like something just gets like ripped out of your life like without you asking for that to happen, you know? I just remember, my boyfriend crying. That's how I knew it was bad, because I saw him crying, and I was like, shoot. I remember also on the phone, before my dad told me like about what happened, I remember I heard him like crying, and I was like, the last time I heard him crying was when his brother died when I was like 10 years old. So, anyways, we go through like a series of like appointments, and they tell us all this stuff. Come into the room and then see the results, and let's talk about everything that's happening. And the doctor pretty much showed us like a scan of everything, and it was pretty much invaded from like the cancer. But one of the doctors there misdiagnosed her with something else. In the past scan that there was actually a spot of something there, but he just didn't see it. For some reason, they said that, yeah, it was bad that he did that, but since it was such a rare type of cancer, the chances of her surviving after that probably would have been very slim. So it's like that's why they like called off like the lawsuit or whatever, which really sucks in my opinion, because it's like, okay, so this person messed up, and then I have to deal with them not being in my life anymore. Like that's horrible. I don't know. Me and her, we had a really really good relationship, but I should have hung out with her more. I should have texted her more. I should have called her more. Every single time I would hang out with her, I would always give her my 100%. So I feel like I try to tell myself that that's the best way to look at it. Nobody knows when their last day is. So now, like, the way I live my life is kind of like I just kind of want to do whatever I want, you know? Whether I think I'm going to fail or succeed or whatever, I just want to keep on doing whatever feels right. Because there was like a lot of things like I wanted to do with my sister that I wasn't able to do because she was younger and my parents were, a little protective and didn't have a lot of free time. And like I would have loved to like kayak with her or like go fishing or go into like a real deep hike. I always think about those things. Pretty much after like that time that we went to the hospital and saw the scans and everything, like it just became like a meeting pretty much every single day. Sometimes they would give us bad news, sometimes they would give us good news, and then we finally checked into like the Ronald McDonald Hotel because we were driving back and forth to Tampa every single day for like 4 days. Or actually, I was because my sister was crying so much that she couldn't deal with it. So I had to drive pretty much the entire time. And my grandma was stressed out in the back. It just felt horrible getting ready, eating breakfast, being on my phone, like doing anything just felt horrible. Like I know how she's feeling right now and I can't do anything to make it better. I felt guilt like for taking care of myself. Reassured myself later on like, hey, like to be able to take care of her, like you need to take care of yourself. So I was like, all right, this is probably the justifiable way for me to try to put myself together to take care of my sisters. So like, going back and forth, we finally got the Ronald McDonald and then my grandma had to stay back in the house and we were pretty much going back and forth. The horrible thing that they don't tell you about those places, like whenever you're in those situations, is that there's like no like ready available food besides like fast food. Like you don't have a kitchen. You know what I mean? So when you're going through those situations, like not only are you going through a stressful time, but you're pretty much eating out every day, so it gets really expensive. You don't want to eat the hospital food all the time. It tastes like shit. So it's like, and Ronald McDonald, they literally gave us a little fridge with chips and unhealthy food. And honestly, it made me so embarrassed to be an American. Like, their children are going through horrible times and you think that they deserve some Cheetos? Dude, what the hell is wrong with this country, man? De verdad. So, yeah, we went to the hospital, stayed there. And then I started to realize the doctors were like discussing like my sister's diagnosis in front of her. And I'm like, nah. I decided, hey, from now on, let's discuss this not in front of her because I don't want her to hear all this stuff. Because you guys were pretty much ready to tell her that she was going to die. But then her liver just like went into like failure. So the toxins like from her liver pretty much went to her brain. So she couldn't like communicate with anyone. She was in this really like bad place. So we're just pretty much watching like her organs like pretty much give up. And then one of the days they were like, "Oh, she's gonna bleed out from like the cancer. Like, what do you want to do? Do you want us to try to go inside and cauterize the bleeds, but we have to intubate her, or do you want her to like bleed to death?" That's how they said it. Just trying to make us feel dumb that we didn't know too much medical terms and like pretty much the entire time I was like translating. There was no translator there. I was translating to my parents, everything. It was just too much, bro. Like I've never been like so much in overload in my life. I just remember like my sister deteriorating like day by day and like I pretty much had the idea of telling my family, hey, send voice messages, like encouraging voice messages, something you want to say to her, like I'll play it to her because I'm sure she can hear. And I feel like it would help because I feel like if your mental's there, like you'll get better. So I was doing that pretty much the whole day. It's like kind of showing her the messages and then I would switch off with my parents and then they would watch her during the day. So somebody had to be watching her 24 hours and only two people could sleep in the room with and then the other ones we had to go out. Pretty much we were in the ICU and she was in like the most like critical condition and pretty much everybody in the hospital is what the nurse was saying. Once they intubated her, man, she looked so bad. That was like horrible to see actually. Cause like just imagine like a tube being like shoved down your throat. That means that you have like pretty much half of your face like covered and that person's in a position where like their mouth is like pretty much pried open and like they have like purple under their eyes. And not to mention that because of the cancer, my sister was starting to swell up. So her whole arms were swelling up, her legs, her stomach, everything was swelled up. Fast forward, honestly, that was such a horrible time that I feel like I blocked out some of it, which I'm pretty sad about because I wish I would knew every single detail. But unfortunately, like my brain was like, I can't like take this pain, so I just had to block it out. We weren't supposed to see anybody, but we were in a really rough shape and we were both like not able to take care of each other anymore. So we're like, hey, let's get a hotel and like we'll be with our significant others for a little bit. The nurses pretty much told us like that she might die in like the next hour or next day or two. So we're like, oh my God, this is horrible. Having to go to sleep during that is like the worst feeling ever. Especially after like hearing your sister like choke from the intubation because they didn't put enough sleepy gas, I guess, I don't know, or the pain medication that makes you stay asleep. They didn't put enough of it. So that also pissed me off. There was just a lot of things there that really pissed me off because it was like, it's already a horrible situation and then that just like heightens it even more. Because I even felt my sister like grab my hand, that's just, I don't want to see her in pain at all. Pretty much after that, I was like with my boyfriend and my sister was with her girlfriend and pretty much cried in my boyfriend's arms all night. But, he was there for me and he just knew what to do. He just knew that I didn't want to hear him say anything. I just wanted him to be there for me. And that's it. Like, I didn't want to talk about it. Not to mention that I had to be on call. Like, if something were to happen, I would have to rush back over there. And I've rushed there before because they said she was going to die, like on the third day, and she didn't. They called, they were like, hey, looks like she's gonna die, da da da. And I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. Pretty much crying, getting ready, and it's just such a weird feeling. And then we're there, and then she ends up still being alive. And I was like, oh, okay, that's good. So I just like kind of pretty much talk to her in her ear and tell her to be strong and stuff and that I love her because I know she could hear me. I feel like she was kind of bleeding out because like the intubation tube, the blood started to come up. So I started to notice that. So I was like, yikes. And I started to notice her body like swelling up even more. And I'm like, not a good sign. And then my parents, they start calling everyone of the family to come to the hospital because she might die. And then the nurse comes up to us around like 4 p.m. and they're like, yeah, I think it might be time like, to pull the plug. And we're like, okay, well, how many people can we have in here? And then she said, you can have the grandmas and the daughters, and that's it. And the boyfriend. Two by two, everybody came in and saw her. And then when they had to pull the plug, they were like, all right, only this amount of people can be in here. The priest came in. He was like doing his prayers and stuff. And then afterwards, like we just played her favorite music, prayed for her, as much as we could, and hold her hand, gave her a hug, even though she's like unconscious, You just see everybody individually like talking and hugging her or whatever. They were like, hey, coming up like with the rags, like trying to like clean the intubation tube because the blood was coming up all the way. And I was like, Jesus. It's like, it seems like they need to take it out like now. So the nurse was like, do you guys want me to take it out here? The blood might squirt. And I was like, no, I think I'm going to go wait outside. And then my dad decided to stay back with my sister. You hate like, God for letting that happen. You know what I mean? Because it's like 10-year-old girl. She didn't know any better, She was a really sweet girl too. It was like an unbreakable bond, And I was just so excited for the next couple of years. Like, what would have happened if, like, her going to like high school or going to prom, like growing up and being able to do like adult things with her would have been so much fun. That's why like I don't really believe in like having like leaving things off in a bad relationship because you just really don't know. It was a horrible situation, but I did realize that like I do have like the strength to take care of things like when things happen. Like what you want to put on the cards at the funeral, like what quote you want to use, what picture you want to use, the slideshow, who's going to give a speech, like who's going to write the obituary, like how to do all that stuff. And that was like really, really hard. That made like everything like a heightened sensation. Now not only did this happen, but now I have to be reminded of it even more. After that happened, when my sister died, I stayed with my parents and, dedicated a lot of time to them, like 8 months to them. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to move back because I need to figure out what's going on with me right now. Because I've been giving, but now, like, how am I acting? How am I acting towards other people? Am I still myself? Have I changed? Has it made me mature more? Has it made me be more grateful for things? Yes. I just decided, okay, I'm gonna get therapy, and I met with a therapist that was like teaching me like CBT. It was the cognitive behavioral therapy. It was actually like a ADHD centered thing, but she said that ADHD like worsens like with depression and stuff. So she said that that needed to be targeted, and then we also talk about how I'm feeling, what's going on. So I would do this like once a week, and then little by little started doing twice a week, and then once every 3 weeks, and then I kept once every 3 weeks for a while. And I don't know, she just like let me vent for like the first 30 minutes about everything. She would like address it, and then she would tie it into some of the things that she wanted me to learn. Like, for example, like fortune telling. That was something that I was doing all the time. Like, for example, I'm in school and I'm also dealing with this grief. Like, am I going to do bad? I think I'm probably going to do bad. I'm probably going to fail, pretty much. But she said, you have to like identify your behaviors before you even address them. So I just started stopping myself saying, oh, why am I fortune telling? Because all this like anxiety and like depression and like sadness that I was feeling, like definitely left like a strain like in a lot of things. I don't know, I just started to notice that like I was losing myself, like I wasn't caring for people as much, like, but it was weird because it almost felt like I needed to isolate myself to get better. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to dedicate all my time to my healing, and then I'm going to be with my boyfriend and we're going to do better. And which is what happened. Obviously, like Christmases and Valentine's Day and stuff like that, it doesn't bother me as much now that it's been like 3-4 years. But obviously, her birthday bothers. And like, special events that pass by, like somebody getting married, would have loved for them to be there, or yourself getting married, or yourself having kids. Obviously, I wish it wouldn't have happened, but to me, it changed me in a way that, like, now I'm a more caring person than I used to be. Like, my ultimate goal is like obviously to be myself, and then also like to try to carry that spark that my little sister had too. You just gotta work with what you have and have a happy life and try to, enhance other people's like happiness around you. At least for me, that's the way I want to live my life. That's the story.